a heart-touching Islamic story. It was the winter of 1937. The small American town of Elmridge lay buried beneath a thick blanket of fog. The yellow street lamps that lined the old roads glowed faintly through the mist, as if they were struggling against the darkness itself. Somewhere in the distance, the long whistle of a train pierced the silence of the night. And at that very moment, behind an abandoned wooden shed near the old train station, a man was prostrating in prayer on the frozen ground. He had only 7 cents in his pocket. At home, his elderly mother had been suffering from a fever for 3 days. By noon the next day, if he failed to repay his debt, the small wooden house he called home would be taken away. And the worst part was this. Earlier that night, he had learned that he might lose his job at the train station within a week. On the night before everything seemed destined to collapse, the man whispered only one sentence over and over again. "O Allah, I do not know how you will help me, but I know that you will." And only a few hours later, something happened in Elmridge that no one could explain for decades. Elmridge was a small working-class town. Old wooden houses, narrow roads, tiny storefronts, rain-soaked brick sidewalks. And at the center of it all stood the aging railway station where freight trains arrived and departed day and night. In one corner of that town lived a man named Yusuf Rahman, a 40-year-old Muslim laborer. His father had passed away many years before. The only family he had left was his elderly mother, Amina. Their house was so fragile that strong winds made the walls tremble. Rainwater leaked through parts of the roof. Cold air slipped through the cracks in the windows during winter nights, yet Yusuf never complained. Every morning before dawn, he performed his prayer. Then he spent the day searching for odd jobs around town. And at night, he worked at the train station loading and unloading cargo. People often mocked him because he was poor and because he was different, a Muslim. One evening, while Yusuf was standing outside a coffee shop looking for work, the owner smirked and asked, "You still pray to Allah?" Several people laughed. "If your God is so powerful, why are you still poor?" Laughter echoed around him, but Yusuf simply smiled and replied, "Perhaps he has given me something you cannot see." The laughter only grew louder. Yet Yusuf quietly walked away, because he knew something most people did not. Not every insult deserves an answer. Some answers are given by Allah himself. That winter was unusually harsh. Snowstorms swept through the town almost every week. One night after work, Yusuf returned home and found his mother shivering violently. Her fever had worsened. She needed a doctor, she needed medicine. But where would the money come from? That evening, beneath the dim glow of a candle, Yusuf sat beside her bed holding her hand. "My son," Amina whispered weakly, "I worry about you." "Do not worry about me, mother. Allah is with us." "You work so hard." "As long as Allah is with me," Yusuf replied softly, "I am never alone." Yet deep inside, fear was beginning to grow, because the next day was the final deadline for his debt payment, and he did not even have half the amount required when every door closed. That night was one of the coldest nights Elmridge had ever seen. Snow drifted slowly from the dark sky. The iron roof of the old train station was covered with a thin layer of ice. Somewhere far away, the whistle of a passing train echoed through the frozen air. As Yusuf finished his shift and prepared to leave, a voice suddenly called out behind him, "Hey, wait a moment." Yusuf turned around. An elderly man stood there. He wore a long black coat and carried an old leather suitcase. His face looked tired from travel. "I'm new in town," the man said. "Do you know a place where I can stay for the night?" Yusuf looked around. Most of the boarding houses had already closed. The weather was growing worse by the minute. After a moment of silence, he replied, "I am a poor man, but if you wish, you may spend the night in my home." The old man looked surprised. "You don't even know me." "No. And yet you'd help me." Yusuf smiled gently. "Sometimes Allah tests us through strangers." A strange expression appeared in the old man's eyes. For a brief moment, he simply stared at Yusuf. Then he nodded. That night, Yusuf shared what little food he had with his guest. There was barely enough for his mother and himself, yet he placed the larger portion before the stranger. Amina watched silently. She knew how difficult life had become. Still, her son never turned away someone in need. Later that night, everyone fell asleep. Everyone except Yusuf. He sat beside the window watching the snow fall outside. The debt deadline would arrive the next day. He still didn't have enough money. His lips moved quietly, not in complaint, but in prayer. The next morning, dark clouds covered the sky. Before noon, the debt collector Harold arrived at Yusuf's house. His face was cold and emotionless. Two men stood behind him. "The deadline has passed," Harold said. Yusuf lowered his head. "I haven't been able to gather all the money." "Then the house is no longer yours." Amina's trembling voice broke the silence. "Please, give us a little more time." Harold shook his head. "No." The word struck harder than any blow. By evening, Yusuf and his mother would have to leave their home. But the hardship did not end there. Later that afternoon, Yusuf arrived at the train station only to receive another devastating piece of news. The company had officially laid him off. There was no more work for him, no more wages, no more security. The station manager handed him a folded paper. "I'm sorry, Yusuf." Yusuf stared at the document. The world around him seemed to disappear. The sounds of workers, the rumble of trains, the whistles in the distance. Everything faded into silence. For the first time in years, he felt completely lost. As darkness fell, Yusuf decided to visit his old friend Samuel. Years ago, Samuel had borrowed money from him. Money Yusuf had never asked back for. Samuel had promised to repay it one day. Now, Samuel owned one of the most successful stores in town. Surely he would help. When Yusuf explained his situation, Samuel remained silent. Then he said something that shattered Yusuf's heart. "Business and friendship are different things. I only ask for what you borrowed. Do you have proof?" Yusuf froze. Proof? For years they had trusted each other, yet now, when he needed help most, his friend turned away. "I am sorry," Samuel said, but his eyes showed no sorrow, only indifference. Yusuf quietly walked out into the snow. The cold felt warmer than betrayal. That evening, with nowhere else to go, Yusuf and his mother took shelter inside an abandoned storage shed near the railway station. The wind slipped through broken boards, snow gathered in the corners. Amina looked at her son. "Are you afraid, my son?" For a long moment, Yusuf said nothing. Then he answered honestly, "Yes." He was human. He felt fear. He felt pain. He felt exhaustion. But after a moment he added, "Yet I know Allah has not forgotten us." Near midnight, Yusuf stepped outside. The town was buried beneath fog and snow. An old street lamp flickered nearby. He stood beneath it and looked toward the heavens. His shoulders trembled. His eyes filled with tears. For the first time in years, he allowed himself to cry openly. "Oh Allah, I can no longer see a way forward. Every door has closed, but you are the owner of every door." Then he fell into prostration upon the frozen ground, alone, hungry, homeless, jobless, yet still believing. And at that very moment, a distant light appeared through the fog. A black automobile slowly emerged from the darkness. It rolled toward him and came to a stop. Yusuf had no idea that within the next few minutes, his life would change forever. Nor did he know that the old traveler he had welcomed into his home the night before was not who he appeared to be. Imagination. Yusuf remained in prostration beneath the falling snow. The wind howled through the empty streets. The fog swirled around the old railway station. Then the black automobile stopped beside him. A door opened. A familiar figure stepped out. It was the elderly traveler, the man Yusuf had fed and sheltered the previous night. "Yusuf," the old man said softly, "I've been looking for you." Yusuf stood up slowly. "You?" The old man smiled. "Yes, me." Two well-dressed men stepped out of the vehicle behind him. They clearly were not ordinary travelers. The old man took a deep breath. "My name is James Harrington." Yusuf stared at him. The name sounded familiar, very familiar. James Harrington was one of the wealthiest railroad and industrial investors in America. His companies owned rail lines, warehouses, and factories across several states. Yusuf could hardly believe it. "Why are you here?" he asked. James smiled. "For months, I have traveled across the country without revealing who I am." "Why?" "Because I wanted to find something money cannot buy." "And what is that?" "A good heart." James explained that everywhere he traveled, people judged him by his appearance. Some ignored him, others insulted him. Many closed their doors. But Yusuf had done the opposite. Even while struggling with poverty, he had welcomed a stranger into his home. Even when he barely had enough food for himself, he had shared it, without expecting anything in return. "I have spent my life meeting powerful men," James said, "but very few possess the character I saw in you." Yusuf lowered his eyes. "I only did what I believed was right." "And that," James replied, "is exactly why I am here." James's assistant handed Yusuf a large envelope. "Open it." With trembling hands, Yusuf unfolded the documents inside. His breath caught. His eyes widened. Inside were papers showing his entire debt had been paid. Ownership of his house had been transferred fully into his name. Funds had been arranged for his mother's treatment. And there was also a job offer, a position within Harrington's railroad company, a job that paid several times more than his previous wages. For a moment, Yusuf could not speak. Tears filled his eyes. The world around him blurred. But there was one final surprise. James reached into his coat and pulled out an old letter. "Do you recognize this name?" Yusuf looked down. His father's name was written across the paper. His heart nearly stopped. "You knew my father?" James nodded. "Many years ago." His voice grew emotional. "When I was a young man, I found myself in terrible trouble. Your father helped me. He expected nothing in return. I searched for him years later, only to learn that he had passed away." James looked directly into Yusuf's eyes. "Last night, when I saw your kindness, I saw the same character your father once showed me." At that moment, Yusuf understood something profound. No act of goodness is ever lost with Allah. Never. Within weeks, life in Elmridge began to change. The people who once mocked Yusuf now respected him. The debt collector who had thrown him out apologized. Samuel, the friend who betrayed him, could barely look him in the eye. Yet Yusuf held no hatred toward anyone, because his heart had learned something greater than revenge: gratitude. One spring evening, Yusuf stood beside the old railway station. The same town, the same sky. Yet everything felt different. His mother sat beside him, smiling peacefully. "Do you see now, my son?" she asked. "Allah may delay His help, but He never forgets." Yusuf's eyes filled with tears once more. "When I thought everything was over," he whispered, "Allah was already preparing a new beginning." Years later, the old station would disappear. The wooden buildings would be replaced. The street lamps would fade into history. But the people of Elmridge never forgot the story of a poor Muslim worker, a man who lost everything except his trust in Allah. And when every door on earth closed before him, the Lord of the heavens opened a door beyond anything he could have imagined. Moral: the one who truly places his trust in Allah will be shown paths that lie beyond human imagination. Sometimes Allah's help does not arrive when we want it. It arrives at the moment He knows is best. And when that moment comes, a single blessing can make years of hardship meaningful.